Okay, hello everyone. My name is Zhihong. Today I will share the topic about the cultural policies to you. Is a cultural policy in Chongqing. Before I talk about these policies, let me introduce the background of this policy to you. As you know, in the world, many countries focus on develop creative industry because of its huge economic and social values of their country's development. So the Chinese government did it too, and they made a lot of cultural policies to develop their creative industry. And for this topic, let me share you the research purpose at first. I will take in testbed 2, which is a creative cluster as an example, explore whether the policy of integration of culture and tourism in Chongqing achieve its aim and how and why. And this is contents. I divided into 4 parts. The first part is about the basic information of this policy, and followed by it, I will take examples whose name is testbed 2 to explain the effect of the policy on creative cluster, and I will research what effect does the testbed 2 have on the local community and society. And on the third part, I will say the effect of the policy of integration of culture and tourism on Chongqing and how and why. I will research whether the policies achieve the key aim and the means it uses, and why these policies can have an effect on Chongqing. And finally, I will do the analysis and the conclusion. Okay, let's move on the first part of this presentation. The basic information of integration of culture and tourism. Okay, at first, what's the policy of integration of culture and tourism in Chongqing? At first, actually, in 2009, the Chinese government have explained the concept of these policies. They said the culture is space for the tourism, and the tourism is a carrier for the culture. And this sentence means there is an intensive connect between culture and tourism, and it can have the huge chemical reactions to improve the economic development and the social values. And look at this concept of it, which is talked in 2018 by the Chinese government is a tourism plus or a culture plus policy, and the main of it is to promote social and economic development, emphasizing the integration of cultural industry and tourism industry. That is a situation in China that local policy is always responded to the central policies. Therefore, in Chongqing, the local government have this policy too. But in different place, the policies has a different details actually. So in Chongqing, these policies is to use the cultural resource to create the new city image of the cultural tourist destination and improve the development of local culture and creative industry for Chongqing. This is the aim of these policies in Chongqing. Okay, let's move on the first part of this presentation, the basic information of integration of culture and tourism. At first, what's the definition of this policy? Actually, in 2009, the Chinese government had explained the definition of this policy. They said the culture is spirit for tourism, and the tourism is the carrier for culture. This sentence means there is an intensive connect between culture and tourism, and it has chemical reactions. It can make a huge economic and cultural development, and is so important for this meaning, this sort. And until 2018, the Chinese government made a formal document about creative industries policies, which is the policies we talk about now. And in short, the essence of it is tourism plus culture. And there is situations in China which is a local policy is always corresponded to the central policies. And so in Chongqing, there is a integration of culture and tourism, these policies too in Chongqing. But in different places, they have a different condition and environment, so they have some different details in Chongqing for this policy. And the aim of this policy is use a cultural resource to create the new city image of the cultural tourist destination and improve the development of local culture and creative industry for Chongqing. This is the main aim of this policy in Chongqing. Okay, let's move on the second part. And in this part, I will take out examples to analyze the policy. And for the Chongqing government, in order to achieve the aim of the policy, regenerated the industrial areas to creative cluster is a good way to make good tourist destinations by using its culture and place. And the government did it. Many creative clusters was built in these years in Chongqing, and I choose the most famous creative cluster in Chongqing, which is Testbed 2, as examples to analyze the effect of the Testbed 2 on the local community. And for Testbed 2, its foremost identity is a banknote printing plant of the Central Bank of the Republic of China, and it was regenerated and opened again from 2017. And now it is a cultural and creative cluster, and it became a famous check-in place. And what effect does a Testbed 2 have on local community and society? According to a research, I list these informations by the time orders and to you to look at it clearly. The first thing it did is about the urban renewals. Of course, it changed itself from the industrial areas to a creative cluster. The second thing is before it's opened to the public, there is a movie whose name is I Belong to You. It shows the movie's values in the testbed 2, and when this movie is played on the screen, it's become popular. And the amazing thing is because it makes the testbed 2 become popular too. And this event is so important for Chongqing because it lets the Chinese around the country the first time to focus on the Chongqing, this city, and it makes the Chinese people's first times to focus on the testbed 2. And the third thing that testbed 2 do is it has seen many companies, business, and workers work in a creative cluster, and it gives people an opportunity to show your talent, which means it changes the environment around the society. And besides, due to advertising of the testbed 2, and because of the popular of these movies, there are many people come into the testbed 2 to see the place. And according to the data, there are 8,000 persons per day, and to come in the test bed, and the number it could be reached on the 12,000 when the day is on the weekend and the holiday. But this event represents that the testbed 2 has become a tourist destination in Chongqing, and it become a famous check-in place. Many people come here, and when you travel in Chongqing, when you open on the tourist app, the app will recommend the testbed 2 for you. So it is so good to achieve the aims that the Chongqing city has become a tourism destination. But it also have some negative effects. The first thing is it doesn't bring the in-depth cultural experience for tourists. Many tourists complain that when they come into the testbed 2, they can't stay in there more over 2 hours because the goods selling in the clusters is not very attractive for them, and they can't feel the much local Chongqing's cultures in it, so it's a shame. A second thing of it is about consumption. Now, testbed 2 can't make many people do the consumptions in it because about the quality of the goods. It don't have many culture about it, so we can't attract people to buy to consume. Yeah, it's a negative effect, but it has been a tourist destinations. It's a good for establish an image for Chongqing to become a tourism destination. Now we move on part 3. That's about the effects of the integration of culture and tourism on Chongqing and how and why. And in this page I will talk about whether the policy achieves its aim and the means it used. According to the analysis of the testbed 2 we mentioned before, now we can see this policy is promoting the image building of the city about tourism, the city for Chongqing. And the way that is used, which is regenerated the industrial areas to creative cluster, is to reserve the has reserved the local culture and achieve the aggregation of the industries and improve the local economy. And it means it attained its aim because it changed the environment and it created the creative economy and improved the creative industry. But it also have some problem that for some creative cluster such as testbed 2 doesn't display its culture enough to bring the cultural experience to outsider. It's a shame, you know. It uses these policies to attract people to come here, but it doesn't let the tourists to consume. It's just like you get the success a half, not completely, is a shame. But for this impact of the policies has, so in this page I will talk about why this policy can have this impact on Chongqing. And first of all, you can see the image on the bottom and on the left. That is about the creative index of western and around cities in China. And you can see on the leftmost reaches of the bars are right in the Chongqing. That is represent Chongqing. It has the highest one figure. That means Chongqing have the highest creative index in the western cities in China. This is important factors to let Chongqing have the basis to improve creative industry and to use these policies to conduct it easily. But it also have a problem, like I mentioned before, it can attract people to come, but it can't let people consume. The art director of the test bed 2, Chen, has said Chongqing is not a traditional tourist city, so for the creative industries, the model should be made adjust for it, so it should be changed. And according to another researchers, he said the problem to develop the creative industry in Chongqing is lack of promotion of cultural education, and he thought it should enhance the support for cultures by the government and school educations. For example, the students make interns in a local community or do some jobs to in-depth understand the culture of the cities, except hold public welfare activities. It's also important to let cultures rooting in people's heart, as this is a good suggestions to let the Chongqing improve further, and you can use these policies to make it attain its aims easier. Okay, finally we do the analysis and the conclusion. According to the analysis and we mentioned before, we can say some creative cluster like testbed 2 is a good method to reserve and spread the local cultures to outsiders and tourists. This way is promoting a form of a new image of the city for Chongqing. And meanwhile, it depends the tourist range, provides creative works, vacancies, and creative and economic fortune. But it also has some problems in the integrations of culture and tourism policy. And it doesn't stimulate this spread of the local culture and creativities, in fact. And the key point is the lack of the executions of the cultural education and practice. And this is a suggestion to let the Chongqing improve better. And according to the researcher, the better way is to conduct relevant cultural practice about education, such as studying in the local communities to take advantage of this policy again. The effect could be better. So, for these policies, regenerated industrial areas to creative cluster has attained its aims. to let Chongqing become a tourist destination, but it also achieves a half of a success. It can be do better. The better can be achieved by using these suggestions by researcher. So this is analysis about this integration of culture and tourism policy, using the creative cluster as an example. Okay, and there are the reference. And thank you for listening.